Hey everyone, this is Teresa Hegel, Executive Editor of Special Projects and Sustainability at ASI.
And this is Cassie Green, Content Director of Apparelist and Editor at Printing United Alliance. And you're listening to Branding Together, a new adventure into the converging worlds of print and promo.
We're here to bring you an engaging monthly discussion that dissects just how closely each of these industries align. Whether you're a promotional products distributor, commercial printer, apparel decorator, or a little bit of everything, our topics and guests will bring the ultimate crossover conversation.
When you're ready to bring your business to the next level, get lost in this month's episode, which is set to happen in 3, 2, 1.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the August episode of Branding Together. I'm Teresa Hegel with ASI, and with me as always is Cassie Green of Apparelist and Printing United Alliance. We have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about print on demand with Maddy Alcala, and it's going to be a great discussion, so I'm looking forward to that. But first, let's kind of kick it off with industry news. Cassie, what do you have for us?
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. And by the way, cannot believe it's already August. I feel like we just started this show. It feels so fast. But
Flying by.
anyway, so first headline I have from the printing side of the industry. This was really, really big news in the commercial space as Landa announced bankruptcy. So for anyone who's not familiar, Landa Digital Printing, they're a huge player on the commercial side. So they recently declared bankruptcy, and since then, Printing Impressions, our sister publication here from the Printing United Alliance, has been covering how the headline is developing, keeping everybody updated. So I'm going to share the most recent update here. So they recently sought bankruptcy protection for being unable to service approximately $516 million in debt. So the most recent update, as shared by Printing Impressions, is that the Israeli Central District Court has given them until the end of August this month to find a possible buyer or fresh investor to craft a potential settlement with its secured creditors. So, if you operate in the commercial space, if you're curious about the commercial space, definitely follow along with Printing Impressions, PI World on social media if you're interested. But big headline.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important to keep up with that kind of news, and it's great that Printing Impressions is on top of it. So my first bit of news is related to ASI's show Chicago, which happened at the end of last month. And of course, that's kind of like such a big show because we have the Counselor Awards, where we announce the Person of the Year, the International Person of the Year, all kinds of awards, Sustainability Advocate of the Year, Family Businesses of the Year, just tons of awards to deserving people in the promo industry. I'm not going to reveal who everybody is that won. You'll have to go onto our site and see. But, we do podcasts with many of the winners. We have like profiles of, what makes them so special, which, they're always interesting profiles, but I think they're also instructive for people who want, aspire to be better. Like, let's learn from people that are doing it right. So that's one of the really big things that is revealed at ASI Chicago. We also update our top 40 suppliers and top 40 distributors, which I think, those are lists that get referenced all year long. Because, of course, you want to know who is, on top in terms of, revenue and kind of see where you measure up and where you need to be. So those new numbers are out and the lists are up on our site and we have all that information. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, I actually just went before we recorded this podcast today. I went and read through it because absolutely important to keep your finger on the pulse, like who's doing what, who's where to find better suppliers, different suppliers. It's just a great tool. So highly encourage everybody listening, please go check out the Counselor Top 40 because what a great resource. Second headline for me, speaking of shows, is I want to remind everybody that registration is open for Printing United Expo taking place October 22nd through 24th in Orlando. Guess what? Teresa and I are going to be there. So if you want to meet us in person, we will be on site. But, it's just a really exciting show. So like ASI Chicago, The energy is high. You get a lot of people under one roof just talking about similar challenges and opportunities that all of you listeners have. So, what better way to understand what other opportunities your business might be missing out on than to actually be on site and talk with your industry peers? Also, see the latest equipment, all of that good stuff. And shameless plug here, you will also find True Apparel Printing Paradise located in the apparel zone, where sponsors will teach attendees how to decorate apparel. And this is a great opportunity for promotional people because, listen, obviously, apparel is a huge piece of the promo industry. So, regardless of whether you're decorating in house or not, understanding the technology, I think, is really important.
Oh, absolutely. If you're gonna sell it, you should know how it's done and what goes best with what, like what technique is best for what kind of shirt, kind of material, all of that. That's really exciting. I'm so excited to go to the show. I've never been, so this will be my first time, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I have one more piece of news. Still going back to ASI Chicago because it's still fresh in my mind. I wasn't there, but, I'm reading all of our coverage. We had lots of editorial people on hand. But I just wanted to give a shout out to the keynote, speech at Chicago. We had an NFL linebacker, maybe former, I'm not a sports person, but Brian Urlacher, he actually talked about lots of life lessons and different kinds of fun that he highlighted in his speech. So we have a great recap of that, keynote if you were not able to attend and see it in person.
I have heard nothing but great things about the keynote, but just about the event in general. I mean, seeing the coverage come out, the different panels, all the topics ASI presented at this show. I mean, people were amped, and it sounds
Yep,
like it was an awesome show. I'm having a little bit of FOMO, a little bit of jealousy
yep.
that I didn't get to go, but yeah, heard it was really
Next
good.
year,
So maybe
maybe
next
next year.
year. Yeah, right. Exactly. You just never know what
Yeah,
2026 might
yep,
hold.
exactly. I know we had some, Printing United people on hand because Dave
Mm,
Laskowski was there teaching a class about, Printing 101, so it was definitely a meeting of the print and promo minds, so.
yeah, I love that. So, okay, well, great industry headlines. As always, you can always make sure you're subscribed to all of our newsletters because that's the best way to keep on top of what is happening in the industry. Make sure you're paying attention to all the headlines. Obviously, Teresa and I pull what we feel, are some of the most impactful headlines, but there are so many. So be subscribed to our newsletters. But we do want to move on to the next segment of our show, which for us, August is a huge ramp up for busy season. It's back to school, it's the start of sports season. It's people are already making holiday plans. I mean, their orders are already going in. So Teresa and I this month kind of wanted to talk about, how should printers, how should distributors, how should everybody in both of our respective industries manage and deal with these big projects, and, what tools and support systems should people be using? So Teresa, from the promo side of things, what's some advice? Where do people need to be focusing their energy as they ramp up?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are already a lot of good software options out there to kind of track, like customer relationship management and, keep track of what's going on in your business. But of course, the best software is not gonna help you if you don't have good processes in place, if you're not actually, you know, inputting the information that you need. So, you have the good software, but you also need to kind of when you do an order for a customer, make sure you're putting all the relevant information into the system so that when the following year comes up, you know what they ordered last year, when their big order is likely to come, and you reach out ahead of time with some ideas and kind of surprise them like, "Hey, they know what I want, they're on top of this," you know what I mean? I really think that the best software is not gonna help you if you aren't if you don't have the processes in place to put things in. So it's all about, like, tracking those orders, following up with your customers, and just kinda keeping on top of things. And if you are doing that ahead of time, once things get busy, you won't be scrambling, you'll already have the groundwork laid.
Oh, that is such an important point to focus on. So that's interesting you bring that up because we recently ran an article in Apparelist that was about what to do during production downtime. And the author of that article, Adam Tanaka, talked about how you can use downtime to prepare for these busy seasons. So you're right. Like you can have the best software, you can have all the inventory in place, all these things, but if you don't have your processes dialed in, if you are not prepared ahead of time, it's gonna all be for naught. You're gonna feel like you're running this chaotic fire drill. So, I think of maybe, you've got the the high school football team is placing tons of orders for their t-shirts. The volleyball team needs warm-up shirts. The teachers and staff need new gear. And then looking ahead to holiday orders, you're starting to see like corporate orders come in and things like that. How are you going to manage all of that if you don't have the right preparation, the right tools in place? I would almost say August, you're starting to be a little bit behind if you're just now starting your preparation, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, I do, I do. I mean, we always do kind of, um for promo, we always run, like, a promotions planner, I think every month, but it's about what to do for 3 months in the future. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of for the holiday season, we're already getting into the time where you need to do that. So if you're just doing back to school stuff now, then you're definitely behind. Not to say that it can't be done, but, you need to be more prepared. You need to be like a Boy Scout and be prepared. Um, and then the only other thing I wanted to mention was the importance of having really good supplier partners, especially when you get to crunch time. You wanna make sure you have suppliers that you know will have inventory and keep you posted on kind of live inventory and what's available, kind of help you if there's an issue, steer you in the right direction. Just you need to know who your go-tos are and kind of keep those relationships, strong.
Yeah, could not agree more, especially in today's climate. I mean, geez, we have talked about this numerous times. You have to have so many venues and supplier partners that are good and trustworthy. Because what if somebody doesn't have something or this is not happening or God forbid another tariff goes into play, like those are the things. The more partnerships you have that are solid and good relationships, I think the better. Because then you can deal with things that maybe you don't plan on happening, but happen anyway.
Right,
um,
right, absolutely.
yeah. Another point I wanted to really talk about, and this is something that I don't know how distributors feel about this, but printers, whether it's apparel printers, wide format printers, whoever, need to be having conversations with their customers well in advance as well. So the communication needs to be really open. Yes, is it possible to turn, a fast order of 50 black t-shirts? You weren't ready for it, but could you do it? Could an apparel printer do it? At the drop of a dime? Probably. However, as these orders start stacking up and as things start coming in, it's gonna be harder and harder to say yes or just be able to turn stuff quickly. So, the more conversations you have with your customers ahead of time, establishing their needs, what is it they think they're gonna want? Do they have artwork ahead of time? What is the lead time you're looking at going into the holidays? Real and be realistic with your customers. I mean, have those conversations and be like, look, this is going to be our busy time. Do not wait until December 20th to order your employee packages, right? Because but like that's just poor planning. It's your employees are going to hate you first of all because they're going to be working way more hours than they need to be working and you're gonna hate yourself. I mean, come on, like, as a business owner, you wanna make sure again, it goes back to the prep work, right? And part of the prep work, I think that's really crucial and sometimes gets lost in translation is talking to your customers ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a super good point and holds true for distributors as well. It's all about customer education, keeping those lines of communication open and kind of level setting what is possible, um, well in advance because you don't want to be caught unawares. Yes, a rush order can be done, but why go through the hassle? And for your customers, like they're going to be paying way more for that. So let them know that yes, maybe you can do this rush order, but it's going to cost you. So let's get this figured out in advance. Let's be prepared.
Mhm. Transparency is key, especially, like, as you ramp up. And yeah, I think what you said is really important. The communication about what a rush order might look like. So even if you are having the ahead of time conversations with your customers, the reality is you are going to get that rush order. Like placement's going to come in. Be very transparent about what the pricing looks like, what it's going to realistically take to make this order, and set like what's the word I'm looking for? Set an actual goal. Like if you say a rush order can only be limited to this t-shirt with this many colors in the print, this quantity, stick to it. Like it's when you have a customer that comes in and says I need 5,000 mugs in one day, if you can't realistically make that happen or it doesn't fall under what you offer, say so. Like it's okay to communicate with your customers and be very transparent about that. I have talked time and time again with so many people that say it's okay to say no to an order
Mhm.
if it doesn't make sense for your business model.
A strategic no can be more lucrative than an unthought out yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Well, and oh my gosh, a strategic no. That's perfect because it doesn't necessarily have to be just like a no and that's where the conversation ends. During the holiday season, no, we can't do this, but we could do this for you in this rushed amount of time or for this
Right.
holiday order. Or next year, let's make sure we're set up, for and be a little more prepared.
Yeah.
So, how are you
And
building those relationships?
and one thing to think about, so, okay, they wanted to try to do this rush holiday order, it doesn't work out. What if you pitch to them, "Well, why don't we do a gift in the first quarter? Nobody does that, so this will be a nice surprise." You know what I mean? Like, there could even be alternatives that let you keep that order, but just maybe push it to a different date.
Yeah.
There's ways to be creative and strategic about it.
Yeah. And now you've set yourself up as a creative partner who thinks outside the box, who your customers are like, "Ooh, I like that this person has, given me more options or different options." And
Right.
now they feel better about working with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I love it. Well, hopefully all of our listeners really felt that they could take away something. Hopefully all of our listeners are already doing these things. If you're not, plenty of resources through ASI, through Printing United Alliance that can help you put those tools in place. For now, we have to move on to our next segment of the podcast. And this is the most exciting part of our podcast is when we bring in our guests because I love talking to people in the industry. So joining us this month to talk about the explosion of print on demand, which ties nicely into like these holiday rush orders, right? Is Maddy Alcala. So Maddy is the president of Gooten, which is a globally distributed company that operates a smart supply chain for brands that are looking to utilize on-demand manufacturing to transform the way they do business. She's also the co-host of another great podcast in the industry, Print on Demand Playbook. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that yet, highly recommend that you subscribe and listen to that podcast. We're talking about a lot of different topics in the industry. So without further ado, welcome, Maddy.
Printing United Alliance is the leading member-based printing and graphic arts association in North America with over 70 years of history and more than 20,000 members worldwide. We're here to support printing professionals like you with the tools, resources, and information you need to grow your business, sharpen your skills, and expand your network. Whether you're a printer, supplier, student, or educator, we've built our community to serve everyone who's passionate about the future of print. An Alliance membership is a smart, cost-effective way to stay current on the latest trends, connect with industry leaders, and give your business the competitive edge it deserves. Head over to printing.org/membership to learn more about the memberships we offer. Let's move the printing industry forward together.
Thank you so much for joining us on Branding Together.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, Teresa and I first heard you speak at a POD conference in February of this year, and you have a way about you. We love what you have to say, so we thought let's bring in Maddy. She can give us, the down low on POD and what's going on in the
Hmm.
industry. But first, could you just walk us through your history in the industry? How did you get started? What brought you here?
Well, first off, thank you. That's so nice of you to say. And I'm excited to be here chatting with you both. So my entrance into the print on demand industry was a bit of an accident, actually. So I've been in the space for almost, I guess, about 8.5 years now. And prior to working in print on demand and technology, I worked in finance. So complete 180 from everything that we do. I worked at BlackRock, living in New York City. I did M&A and strategic consulting within the company. It was an awesome job. I learned a ton, met some amazing people, and just realized that first off, the big company thing was not for me. And I really wanted to work in an industry that was much more physical. My dad had done startups his entire career and really focused on the logistics and supply chain space. So I was always interested in how things move around and get to point A to point B. So when I was ready to make a career change, I was looking at a bunch of different smaller companies focused on that, and then got connected to Gooten just again, kind of by an accident. I had gone to college with the son of one of our early investors. And so he connected me with Brian, the CEO, and the team. And it was supposed to be just an informational coffee chat and ended up being a multiple hour discussion. And here we are. So, yeah, I have no regrets, though. The industry sucked me in. I love working in it.
That's awesome. So can you talk to us a little bit about what it was like stepping into the role of president? What did that feel like? What did it mean to you? Kind of what was that whole transition like?
Yeah, daunting. I definitely felt very daunting, but exciting. So I joined Gooten originally as our first customer success representative. I think we had 100 customers on a good day, and nobody was really talking to them or doing much with them. So I started cold calling customers and learning what they liked about us, what they didn't like about us, built up our sales and account management and customer success team fairly organically over a few years. And then I learned this about myself, but also about the business. I actually really like sales. I think it's really interesting because I think sales is solving problems. It's listening to people and understanding what their problems are and then helping them solve them. Again, if you're doing your job correctly, hopefully you're solving their problems. And so I had spent a lot of my time at the company doing that. And one of our problems, when I think it was about, yeah, it was 2021 or so, was that we were looking to raise our Series A. And so I had a close relationship with our board of directors already, and they basically came around the table and said, well, we think you should go do this and lead this round and this fundraise for us, but you really need to have a title that makes sense for the business to be leading those conversations. So, like, we're going to make you president. And I was like, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Big pressure. Here we go. Let's try to get this done. So that I would say that's how it felt at the time. It was pretty daunting. Very flattering that the board and the team trusted me to take in that role. Oh, but yeah, I had like imposter syndrome out the wazoo. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I gotta figure this out. But I think we all experience this, and I definitely have. You kind of get to this point in your career where you realize like most people are doing something for the first time, and a lot of people are, you know, not always the most confident because they haven't done it before, and you've just gotta give it a shot and put your best foot forward and see how it goes.
Oh my
That's all.
gosh, that is so powerful. I mean, Teresa and I have talked about this on past episodes, like that feeling of, am I can I do it?
Yeah.
Am I ready for it? It can feel daunting, but wow, good for you for just like you're gonna do it. And obviously, having that confidence plays a huge role, I think. And just wow, cool and powerful to hear you say that.
Thank you.
So yeah, one of the moving on to our conversation, big talk of the town, print on demand, right? And obviously, Gooten is a big player in this part of the industry. We see it everywhere, not just, obviously, I do apparel, Teresa does promo. So, not just in apparel and promo, like we see it in the commercial space, we see it in the wide format space. Why do you think print on demand is just having such a meteoric rise?
Think there's a lot of factors that drive it. I think one of the big ones is its flexibility. And so, because we've lived through so much uncertainty and growth in different ways, past 5 to 10 years, I think businesses have looked for flexibility in how they produce and how they supply and how their supply chains can be more agile. And I think print on demand is a really good tool for that. So it's like you take these intersection of forces because e-commerce has exploded. If you look at, just the US market, e-commerce as a percentage of total retail sales, it continues to chip up and up and up and up and up every year. And then you've got where content is coming from and how we all interact with the news and content and what we're consuming on our phones. Social media has exploded, right? You have all these design tools. Anybody can be a content creator now. There's so many technologies out there. So that's happened at the same time. And at the same time, all of that, you have these major disruptions that have occurred, right? COVID and, the way that goods are being made. And now we've been living through all of this uncertainty with tariffs and global trade. And so I think businesses of all sizes are looking and saying, well, how do I tap into the growth and where the world is going, which is people are online shopping and it's very digital forward. And there's kind of this democratization of content and access for everyone. At the same time that, I have a big uncertainty here in terms of planning, POD is perfect for those things, and can really help brands, small business owners, large retailers stay nimble in the face of all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true, I think everything you're saying. And as we mentioned, like print on demand is in all these different areas, but obviously as the promo person, I care the most about the promotional product space. Um how do you think print on demand has redefined that vertical?
So I think it's redefining. I think it's a work in progress. I am new to the promo world too, because I think POD is new to the promo world. I think if you go back a few years ago, even just in my role, it wasn't something we were talking about as much. It's really come to the forefront of the conversation in the past year. And I think the major factor that I just talked about with global trade uncertainty and tariffs, I think has accelerated that. But I also think there have been some companies that have really, driven adoption because they've looked at promo and said this industry needs to be more nimble and more flexible with how we submit orders, and they've built technology around it designed for people in that industry, from people in that industry, to make it much easier to submit orders. So I think that we are in the redefining moment. I think that we're at the beginning of it in terms of what print on demand can do for promo. And the big thing that I've seen is it's a rethink of what print on demand means, or redefinition in some ways, because I think traditionally print on demand has been synonymous with like e-commerce fulfillment and drop shipping, or photo, right? If you go back a while ago. And then it was kind of the t-shirt game. And then you start getting into different categories. I think with promo, print on demand means much more order what you need when you need it. And it's still a digital first, on demand first strategy. But it's thinking about ways that promotional product distributors and suppliers and kind of everyone in that industry can just be, again, more flexible with how they place orders and what they use them for, and not always be beholden to big minimums or production methods that maybe don't suit their bottom line.
And that's really interesting that you mention what print on demand means or is defined as within the promo space or even in the apparel space, because in having a lot of conversations with apparel decorators, they often define print on demand as like a one-off custom order or
Yep.
something like that. So you do see it playing out differently and being defined differently in different print verticals or even in the promo space, which I think is a fascinating topic in and of itself. And we could probably do a whole other podcast about
Yeah.
that and the hot take of who defines print on demand as what. But I'm curious how you see print on demand playing out or being defined in the commercial printing space and the wide format space, because from what I've observed, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think in the commercial space, it tends to mean more digital in terms of the equipment that's being used, and the strategy, and it tends to mean more small run or one off or personalization. But to your point, Cassie, everyone kind of has their own definition, and that's an interesting part of this industry, right? Is we have these centers of gravity for knowledge and thought leadership, and there's been a lot more of those that have come up, but it's still pretty siloed, right? You have paper, and a lot of the HP community has D-Scoop. There's the kind of apparel community has this, and kind of more Printing United in some ways is more apparel and hard goods focused. And then you've got these like Photo World, which is its own thing. But truly, print on demand spans all of those different industries, and everybody uses it differently. But that to me is more, print on demand is actually a supply chain strategy. It's a production strategy. It's a way of thinking about producing goods. And that can have a very wide application across all different types of mediums and products.
Fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um So I wanted to kind of narrow in on the idea of sustainability because that's something that Cassie and I talk about a lot. We had the, sustainable merch summit, a few months ago, and I write about sustainability all the time. I know Cassie does as well. And print on demand is something that kind of comes up as a sustainable kind of play quite often. So what is sustainable about print on demand? How do we kind of talk about sustainability when we talk about POD?
So, great question. And it's a great topic, a very important one, obviously. I think, again, if you're going to take a macro level and then you go into the different industry verticals, I think one of the things that's more inherently sustainable output on demand is that you're producing something that you need and you know what you need, or somebody's already bought it. And so, if you compare that to a more traditional production method where you're typically pre producing, holding items in a warehouse or distribution center and then pulling them off the shelf when somebody purchases something. A lot of times, because we're humans and we can't read the future, you overproduce and you buy too many things. And then what do you do with it, right? And, I think the fashion industry is a really great example of that because it's a multi-trillion dollar industry globally, and it's one of the top contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. And so many of those items and garments that are produced end up in landfills and are not, well, produced in a way that's environmentally ethical or sustainable, depending on, where you are in the world. I think POD off the cuff solves that problem. And I also think that POD is inherently more localized from a supply chain perspective because for it to make sense, you're usually producing much closer to that end customer. And so that can help with some of the just overall burden of transportation and fuel and everything that goes into moving goods around the world. I also think within the industry, there's been a lot of advancements made by everyone. You've got the garment manufacturers, you have the equipment manufacturers, the people who make ink. I think everyone's looking and saying, within this process, how do we eliminate waste? How do we make the machines more efficient, the inks more environmentally beneficial to what's going on around us? And so I think that within the industry too, there's a big focus on that because everyone realizes that we already have a head start. And so if we're producing what we need, then we should do that in a way that's sustainable. So I think that those are the two things I look at of why it's a good lens, especially for a larger corporation. If you're looking at reducing waste, you should have POD as part of your supply chain focus.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up the fact that, yes, the textile space is a huge polluter. And it's going to take a while to change that course. But you're right. We already are course correcting a little bit, and POD helps with that. I mean,
Yep.
if we can just at least incorporate this business model in shops across even just the US, I mean, we're already implementing change, which I think is hugely important. So, like, kind of along those lines of building in a POD business model in the apparel industry specifically, but in other print segments, not everybody is already doing this. Maybe in the other printing industries, maybe in the other printing verticals. But in the apparel industry, there are a large chunk that are doing it, but there are a large chunk that are still, you know, not there quite yet. So, so I guess my question is, what advice do you have for listeners to operate effectively in POD, to incorporate effectively into their business model, making sure that they're going to be successful and not just like trying to piecemeal and fire drill it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think it ties back to the broader how do we all help POD grow and do it in a way that's beneficial to everyone? I think one of the big challenges we have as the industry and opportunities is education. This market changes so fast. The technology changes, what's possible. You have to really be in it to stay current. And even if you live in the industry, you still miss things. And so I think that can be really hard for people who are newer to the space because it's not like a lot of other markets out there where you can just type a quick Google search, you download or, you pay $1,500 for your McKinsey brief and you read it and, you've got kind of all the market knowledge, right? That's, if you're doing in the automobile industry, right? That's a very much older industry. There's so much well-documented research and standards and all those different types of things. Print on demand doesn't have that yet. It's becoming that way, but it's still a lot more the Wild West. And so that'd be the first piece of advice I would give someone is first off, just make sure you actually understand it and have conversations with people. If you can afford to go to a trade show, that's a really great place to do it. If you can't, I think the people who work in this industry are very intellectually generous and willing to have conversations with people who are new to entry and have conversations with a lot of different people. And so try to get different perspectives because I think that's one thing that the communities that exist do really well is they knowledge share because a lot of times people who are getting into print on demand, there's exceptions to this, of course, because there's large businesses and retailers and all that. But a lot of time there are sole proprietors or small business owners, and it's a big decision for them if they're looking at buying a piece of equipment or changing how they fulfill their Shopify store. And, there's a lot of mistakes you can make in that process, and it can get very expensive. So that would be the first piece of advice I would give is network yourself and try to get access to information before you go into the space. And then the second piece of advice I would give would be do not ignore technology. Just think about it from a consumer mindset, right? We do things that are easy. I use apps on my phone that are easy because they're they're just easy, right? I do that versus doing something else. And so if you're entering into POD, don't just focus on the physical product side, because that's really fun to look at the samples and the blanks and the print quality and all that stuff and the equipment and like, but actually think about how am I going to manage my order flow and make sure that this is part of my overall fulfillment strategy or operations or whatever type of company you're running. Don't ignore the technology piece because it will bite you later on. So like enter into the space, assuming you're going to be successful. This is going to be a great part of what I do, and make some smart technology choices up front around integration and scale and trying to avoid manual workarounds and all of that. Because if you invest in POD, but you don't invest in the technology to go with it, it's always going to be this thing that's off the side of your shop floor or your fulfillment operations or your e-commerce site. And it's going to feel annoying to continue to grow in because you have not put the resources in to scale it.
Yeah. I think that is all such amazing advice. I especially like what you said about knowledge share and education, because I think you're right. People in these industries are really willing to help, and they want to share their knowledge because I think people know that you know the more we all learn about this and the better we get, like, that helps everyone. It's like that rising tide is gonna lift all boats. We don't want some people doing it wrong and giving it a bad name, and we want everybody to be doing it, in the efficient way so that, print on demand is elevated and is something that, we can all be proud of. So I love that advice. And I mean, this whole conversation has been really, really informative and educational, I think. But, Cassie and I always like to end on a less educational note, I guess, and have something a little bit fun. So our fun question for you is, if you could pick one celebrity to supply and print merch for, who would it be and why?
Yes, I knew you were going to ask this question, and I've just been sitting here like changing my answer mentally so many times because I'm like, I'm first off, like, I am not someone that follows celebrities closely. So you should never watch a movie with me because you're gonna be like, oh, wasn't that person in that thing? I'm like, I literally never seen this person before. And it could be a very famous actor or actress.
Well,
So
so I
I'm
think
thinking,
it's very wide, we define
yeah,
everyone.
okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for that, Teresa. Because my answer is gonna be Zach Bryan. He's a country music artist. I love him. I've seen him in concert 3 times. Would love to do his merch because I think we could just there's so many cool things that we could do. And
Mm.
I've also looked for merch that I want him to have, and he doesn't have it. So this is for you, Zach. Come and call me. I'll do your merch. It's gonna be awesome. We know a bunch of people in the space.
So what are some things that you from him you want and can't find?
So he and I hope his label is listening to this. The Etsy ecosystem has done a really great job of taking like song lyrics and album covers and like because he's a really original, inspiring creator. Like he's a writer. I don't know if you know. Now we're gonna do a Zach Bryan history lesson. He was in the Navy. He lost his mom. Like he's had a very interesting personal life. Like very inspiring story. But he's also like a very authentic, honest person. I think about his pros and cons. So I think his music is beautiful because he writes some really beautiful lyrics. And I'm like, this person needs like a wall art collection because you could do some beautiful things. They need a gifting collection. Those romance songs. There's so much you could do. You have like a wedding Zach Bryan vertical. I have a whole vision of what this could be. You also need all of the wearables and the giftables and yes, like it could be a whole thing. And he has a huge fan base. Like I heard someone liken him to the male Taylor Swift, and I don't want to take that away from Taylor because she's a queen. But I do think Zach has had a meteoric rise and his merch strategy is lacking because his t-shirts are cool, but like you could do so much more, bud, and you can make a ton of money. So that's my celebrity merch bitch.
That's
Zach
awesome.
Bryan, if you need Maddie's contact information, we can help you out.
Yes. And anyone, Maddie at Gooten.com.
Nikki, maybe.
Yes. I've been consistently one of his top listeners on Spotify, so I may just like DM him with this take and be like, first off, listen to podcast, POD, great. Second off, here's my email. My team would do a really great brand demand merch strategy for you.
Well, you'll have to report back if that works.
No, I will.
Oh,
Everyone I know will know about it. I will not be quiet. I'm just gonna be like, everything I talk about will be related to that if that's actually what happens in my life because I'll be so happy. But like professional goals aside, personal ones have been achieved. We're good. That's all I need to
awesome.
know.
Well, Maddie, thank you again for sharing your expertise, your wisdom, and everything about Zach Bryan, and print on demand, of course, POD. No, let's not forget that. But I think this will be a really great conversation for our audience, and it was so great having you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Maddie, for that great discussion. It was awesome. Of course, as everyone hopefully knows at this point, we love to end the show with a little bit of fun. And since we are focusing on print on demand or pod, as it's so often referred to, we thought it'd be fun to kind of explore some of the other things that pod can stand for.
Right. And it could be so funny, like obviously print on demand, right? But how can we think bigger? And also, I bet some of the people listening out there could take some of our suggestions and maybe make some really funny merch with it. I don't know. Who knows? Might find something inspirational. Parisa, do you want to go first?
Sure. So my first one is, and these are sort of a mix of AI generated and kind of weird things that popped in my head. So I'm not going to tell you which ones were AI and which were mine because I don't want you to think one is better than the other. But first one is polo overlord. Not overlord. I'm sorry. Polo overload disorder. Although a polo overlord would be interesting. But polo overload disorder, which is hard to say. The symptoms include excessive embroidery and spontaneous golf outings.
Oh, I love that. As somebody who's maybe not a big fan of polos,
I would
that kind
I
of
could
like
picture it. I don't know that I could picture you in a polo.
not my style,
No.
but that kind of makes me happy. My first and I'm the same, this is a mix of AI generated ideas along with my own creative mind here. So my first POD is pants optional desk. And I know that's kind of like a funky way, but like obviously all of us now do tons of video recording from our desks. So who knows who's wearing pants?
I can assure you that I am wearing pants today.
Same. However, my pants may not necessarily be the most professional pants. They're comfy. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, that's all we need to know. All right, my next one is promo on the daily. Obviously, the is in parentheses, but promo on the daily because it is an everyday essential.
Love that. That's so perfect. Well, so you did one that's specific to promo. I'm going to do one specific to printers. So, printers overloading daily. So, this is a tribute to every exhausted decorator trying to fulfill 100 online stores with 30 different SKUs and one working heat press.
That sounds exhausting.
Yes.
All right, here's another one that is promo specific. Promo, comma, our destiny. Because it's this industry that we were fated to join.
Yes. I feel so inspired now. It's like our destiny.
You gotta make it
Awesome.
more epic, right? Like, we're just doing our day to day, but let's turn it into some kind of Lord of the Rings, like, journey. Hero's quest.
Oh my gosh. Total side note to derail the conversation. I was just introduced to that game, Hero's Quest. If nobody like knows what it is, please go look it up. It's amazing.
Okay.
All right. I digress. My next POD acronym is print or die. So it might be a little dramatic, but have you seen what print can do these days? So, print or die all the way. A little bit of the destiny.
Yeah, yeah, let's
Mhm.
I like how it's kind of going in this epic journey. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk today. Epic journey. Okay. Speaking of not being able to talk and making mistakes, it really ties into my final one. POD, print, comma, oops, comma, do-over. So, um, these are like rookie mistakes. We've all made them. I'm sure that this happens all the time, but you gotta do the do-over sometimes. You have a typo in that cool t-shirt and it goes out, gotta go to POD and redo it.
Yep. Is what it is. Just accept it and move on. We've all been there. All right, I love that. My final one is piles of decisions because printers and promo people on the daily are faced with all of these decisions that they have to make. So POD means you're making 1,000 tiny decisions before lunch.
Yes. And I guess on a more you know, f- formal kind of note, with print on demand, you don't want to give your clients too many decisions, right? You don't want that analysis paralysis. So it's a good thing to remember that you don't want to give them too many decisions. You're trying to make it easy for the client.
I love that. Well, what a great way to end our episode. Teresa, thanks for giving us some creative ideas on what POD might stand for. And, this has been a really awesome journey. Can't wait to see what September holds. If you are not subscribed to all of our newsletters, just quick reminder, please go subscribe to Branding Together and put it on your regular listening list. Teresa, looking forward to next month.
Yeah, see you in September.